You are Locked On Falcons Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, your team every day.
Welcome back, everyone, to another Locked On Falcons, Locked On Sports Atlanta postcast, of course, with myself, Aaron Freeman, the host of Locked On Falcons, and Jarvis Davis, one of the many hosts on Locked On Sports Atlanta, the co-host of ATL Day Ones. And the Falcons pulled it off, Jarvis, with a 25-24 comeback victory. They were down 12, going into the end of the third quarter. It didn't look great, but the Falcons, pulled off that fourth quarter resilience, borrowing from Deion Sanders and those Colorado Buffaloes out west last night. If any of you guys caught that game, I'm on no sleep because I stayed up to like 2:30 watching that thing. But I'm riding high on the adrenaline of the Falcons finishing this game strong. We got to talk about the gutsy 4th and 1 call on that sort of final drive where the Falcons went for it, tossing the ball to Bijan Robinson, and he avoids kind of the penetration, like made a couple of guys. It was, Mr. Walk on Water. He lived up to the moniker on that one, converts big time. And it was like, I was holding my breath the whole time, Jarvis. And, I think we gotta say Bijan, man, he was the MVP of this game. Finished with, look at his stat line, 19 carries, 124 yards, also had 4 catches for 48 yards. It seemed like every time he touched the ball, good things seemed to happen for the Atlanta Falcons. Jarvis, my friend, I'll give you the floor to talk about Mr. Water into Wine.
Oh my gosh, man. It is Sunday. I know it's Sunday, but I'm gonna have to give me some wine, man, because, what Seven was able to do today, it really gives you a peek into why the Falcons drafted him, the way they did in the top 10 in the NFL, 2023 NFL draft. It's just because here's the thing, and I kind of mentioned this before we got started. I was like, I don't know if they had given that ball to anyone else, they probably wouldn't have gotten that first down, because Seven was just making everybody miss. That first person, he was guaranteed to miss. And given what, we talked about how the defensive line was going to be a task for the Falcons offensive line, and that came out to be very, very true. And those guys were getting penetration; they were getting in the backfield. So when Bijan Robinson got the ball, there was somebody, a defensive lineman standing right there in his face. So for him to be able to, Coach Smith be able to have the confidence in Bijan to be able to do that, it just goes to show you that this dude is an absolute weapon. I love how, even though Tyler Algier didn't have the best game today, he still kind of figured out, okay, I got to go on my guy. I got to lean on my guy. I got to lean on the dude that we brought in here to take this offense to the next level. And you saw that. And I just thought it was just absolutely amazing for him to be able to, on that 4th and 1, to just stick that foot in the ground, get them little quick in and out, and just turn that ball up and get that first down, man. It was just like Green Bay. I think Green Bay was so defeated at that point. They were just like, all right, this dude is the real deal. I know we watched film on this cat, but to see this cat up in person, I think that the Green Bay definitely understands, this team is for real. And for the defense, we had 3 consecutive 3-and-outs late in the game like that. That type of stuff is huge, man, for them to be playing as a team like that. Because we're so used to seeing unbalanced Falcons teams, right? If the defense is halfway decent, the offense is going to struggle. Or if the defense is just giving it up to the Glock, or the offense is putting up points. So for them to be able to play together like they did at the end of the fourth quarter, into the end of the third quarter, going into the fourth quarter, it was a beautiful thing to see, man.
Yeah, I think you go with the Falcons getting those points at the end to take the lead with less than a minute to go. And you said it before we recorded, Jarvis. We've seen that story before, right? With the Falcons, where absolutely. It's like too much time on the clock. And it's like, look, the Falcons spent a lot of money this offseason on their defense. And it needed to show that defense to go out there and get one more stop. As you said, they had gotten a couple of good stops to allow the offense back in the game. And they needed one more, and you saw that pass rush get after Jordan Love. They hadn't really done a whole lot in the game, and so like when I think the story of this game is basically like the team that you go back and you watch the fourth quarter, you're looking at this Falcon team and like, oh, this team is special. You watch the first three quarters, you're like, I don't know.
I'm glad that you bring that up, because we could be talking about them still being down 14 points, because those 2 drop picks, those was probably house time. Those was probably house time. So like you said, this is the NFL, man. Like the ball can bounce off someone's chest a certain way, and it just couldn't work out for you. And thankfully, it did work out for the Falcons. But like you said, I think Ridder, he showed something in that fourth quarter, because like you said, I think when you think about how he played and, putting the ball in harm's way several times, he actually threw his first pick in his NFL career today as well. So for him to kind of make the necessary adjustments, I like how he used his legs. It was so funny. My wife was like, "Is he a mobile quarterback?" I was like, "No." But he can run. He can run. He used his legs when he needed to, and also was able to get the ball in the end zone by running the football as well, by an excellent play call by Arthur Smith. So yeah, it's like this is something interesting. I think this is one of those wins that I feel like you can kind of build off of, because we understand what happened last week. Like first half, second half, okay, but this kind of like throughout the game, you saw some instances where the Falcons could have folded, but they didn't, and that's what I like to see as this team continues to progress.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jarvis. It's like, and again, pointing out that they were getting beaten the first three quarters is not meant to be a knock, but it's more a testament to this team's ability to finish. They finished last week, they finished this week, and we have to point that out, because like the Falcons have had this reputation of not being a team that consistently finishes. And with Arthur Smith's style, with the run game, with the defensive investments that they've made, they've put the pieces on the field that they should be a team that can finish games. And they've shown that each of the last 2 weeks that they have been able to finish games. And it was interesting that you mentioned the Ridder interception. Like that's probably not when we go back and watch the film, we're not going to really talk about that interception, because he got hit as he was thrown, and sort of that affected the throw.
But
it was
the other residents,
the other dropped interceptions that we're going to be like, what, like, and it goes back to something that we talk about every week, Jarvis, which is like, we don't need Desmond Ridder to put the team on his back, right? We just need him to play a clean, efficient game. And for the first half or so, that wasn't really the case. But as you said, in the fourth quarter, late in the game, we started to see that mobility come through. And that was something that we wondered a little bit if we were going to see that. We know Ridder is a capable athlete, but like Arthur Smith kind of came out in the summer and was like, we're not going to really run him like we did Mariota. It's going to be a different offense. And I think this week they were like, nope, like, get the legs going, make this offense just a bit harder to defend, because teams have to respect that mobility. And he had a couple of key conversions, making with his legs. And so I think that really was the big difference for this football team. Any other thoughts you had on this game, Jarvis, that we're blanking on it, because we're so focused on the fourth quarter? Any other players stand out for you?
Wow. I think Lindstrom had a nice little bounce back. It started off a little rough. Yeah. But I think that for him to be able to, specifically when they wanted to run the football with Caleb McGarry as well. So those guys, you see, once they on 4th and 1, you see what side of the ball they went to. They went to that right side, man. That's where the money at, man. Where the money resides. So you got to go that way. So I thought, like you said, that offensive line, was able to, kind of hunker down, on towards the end of the game. And also I like the plays that Mac Hollins made, because I don't know about you, man, but I still feel like that was a touchdown. I think they got stolen. One got stolen from him on that one, but for Hollins to make the plays that he did, because those weren't perfect balls, especially on that deep ball when on that trick play, he had to kind of come back forward and kind of go up forward, and the DB was right up under him. So for him to go up there and make that catch like that, and to be honest with you, what I really like to see is what we saw in those first 4 games as the start of last year. that connection between he and Drake London. I think that was when I think it was the first play of the game when he went to Drake London. I think Arthur Smith said, "Okay, I hear y'all. Like, we're gonna get him involved, early, so he can kind of get the ball rolling." And he was doing his thing against Jair Alexander, a guy who's a defensive MVP type candidate. So you got to give credit where credit's due. Drake London had a heck of a matchup today, and I think he came out on top.
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought, you mentioned Lindstrom in the offensive line. I thought Bergeron had his welcome to the NFL game. It was
absolutely
a couple of times. Kenny Clark and Devontae Wyatt was like,
yeah, man,
that's not pretty. But like, still, I think the offensive line sort of stepped up. It wasn't the best start for them today but again, the Falcons stayed committed to running the football, and it worked because it was interesting because I'm watching the game, Jarvis, and I'm like, it feels like, especially early in the game. And again, I know people are going to call this a nitpick, but like when they didn't convert in the red zone, and it was like, why are they throwing the ball so much? Like, you got 3 plays at the one, just do what you do, Arthur Smith, run the ball, right? And then they come out in the second half on that opening drive and throw it 3 straight times, and they have a 3 and out. And it felt like Arthur Smith sort of heard the criticism from last week, where it's like, I don't think you had a lot of confidence in Desmond Ridder last week, and so he's like, this week I'm going to show you guys I got confidence in my quarterback, and it didn't really work at first. Right, because they didn't necessarily convert in the red zone a couple of times, and again, as they started the second half with that 3 and out. But again, I think Desmond Ridder showed in the fourth quarter, okay, like maybe he's not going to be the guy that's going to throw the ball 40 times a game and win you the game, but he can make the plays that you need to make when the chips are down. And so I think even though it was not a perfect game for Desmond Ridder, this is the type of game that he really needed to show up in the fourth quarter to get this thing rolling so that we can start to get some momentum and say like, hey, I'm feeling better about this quarterback. He's still got a long way to go. We can talk about some decision making. We can talk about some missed throws, all that stuff. But like, you need to be able to make the plays at the critical moments, and I think he did this Sunday.
And let me add to what you just said, right? So we had a conversation about Jordan Love versus Desmond Ridder. I think it's fair to say, even though Jordan Love had a nice stat line, he threw 3 touchdowns, no picks and everything like that. But I think when it comes down to making the plays when your team needed you to make plays, like there were some throws that he missed on that last drive.
Yeah,
like he missed a wide open. I think it was Dobbs down there on the sideline. So yeah, when it came time to make plays, I feel like Desmond Ridder outshined Jordan Love. So and Jordan Love has some developing to do as well. So when you think about, because at the end of the day, man, like when that pressure is on your back, like you really gonna find out what type of quarterback you got, because Jordan Love was pretty comfortable for most of the game. So, but when that pressure started to heat up a little bit, the guys started getting off blocks and started coming down that pipe, and he had to look those guys in the eyes and still throw that football. He was a different quarterback. And Ridder, hey man, he stepped up there and made those doggone throws.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a perfect way to sum it. Like we talked about this going into the game. Like Love is the point and click quarterback. That's like, it's really like, you look at those first 3 quarters and you're looking at the numbers, it's like that feels like more Matt LaFleur than it is Jordan Love. And then when the game came down to Jordan Love needing to be Jordan Love and make the plays, it seemed like he was a little lacking in that desire. And it's like, I'm not going to say completely the opposite with Desmond Ridder, but it was just like not necessarily executing the offense exactly as Arthur Smith called it up. But then when it came down, like, I need you to make a play, Desmond Ridder went out and made a play. And so I think that's the story. And that's something to build off, right? Like, we'll figure out the first 3 quarters. Eventually we'll figure it out at some point this season. But like, as long as
you getting them wins, man, and
we'll do it.
You getting those wins and making the plays when need be. Like, hey man, it's kind of hard to kind of like look at it and say, oh well, this is not the guy. No, man, this is a story. And like, they're only 2 games in, man. So hey, this is a ride that I'm willing to go on. I know you're willing to go on as well. So buckle up, because this season is, like I said, it's going to be very interesting, man, because like this is, you know who they got coming up next. So this is going to be very interesting. Let's see how they plays out.
We'll see what this team does on the road next week against Detroit Lions. Desmond Ridder, 30-0. Going back to college at home. Like, this man is money at home. We'll take him in Mercedes-Benz. We'll see what he can do at Ford Field next week, and then across the pond in Jacksonville the week after that. So some road tests definitely ahead of the Falcons with some teams that I think a lot of people went into the season expecting to be good. And so there's going to be some great tests for the Falcons as a measuring stick. Okay, where is this team at? Are they on the level with teams like Jacksonville, like Detroit, that are, teams that are projected to win the division, right? And the Falcons probably projected to win division, but I don't think it's because people think, I think it's more because people think the NFC South is bad as opposed to those other divisions. But again, that's what we'll get to find out next week.
Man. Like, it's what it is, man.
Yeah,
it
so,
is what it is.
I think these next 2 games are going to really tell us a lot more about this team, but great start to the season, great 2-0 finish. And it's nice to feel confident going into a fourth quarter with the Atlanta Falcons. It's like, hey, I don't, I'm sick to my stomach because the roller coaster is knocking me around, but like, I'm not sick to my stomach because I'm worried about the Falcons. It's just the ups and downs, man.
Just figured it out, man. They just figured that out. Like, that's their motto. Like, they figured that junk out, man. Yeah. Like, no matter how long it takes, they figure it out before the fourth quarter comes around.
You guys keep tuned in to Locked On Falcons all week long for more analysis of this game. Of course, Jarvis, Tanicho, and John Chuckery on Hitting Hard on ATL, Locked On Sports ATL, all week long as well, and also give you the lowdown on college action, baseball action. Things are going well in the city of Atlanta at this current junction. So hopefully the Falcons will, hold up their end of the stick. But of course, we'll have you covered all week long on the Locked On Sports Atlanta podcast, your team every